I'm still on a mission to make Destiny's Forgotten exotics usable, and though we've seen some changes to some of the exotics that most would consider forgotten, there's still some exotics out there in need of some love. Today, that exotic is Wings of Sacred Dawn. Wings of Sacred Dawn allow you to hang in the air while aiming a weapon. You get some damage resist, flinch resist, and airborne effectiveness while the float is active, and solar weapons will be refilled from reserves if you manage to get a takedown while floating. It also requires a solar super, which limits this exotic's use cases to solar or prismatic. Now, I did play around with prismatic for a bit to see if there was something you could do with it, but not really. There's not much that really works with the exotic, so you're mostly just playing a stock prismatic warlock that just happens to be able to shoot while you're in the air. I was also trying to get some use out of the solar weapon refill as well, since that part of the exotic is actually pretty fun. That left me with 2 solar weapons, which made it pretty annoying to build up my darkness meter. Overall, I think prismatic is okay, it's workable, but this exotic on solar just makes a lot more sense. So, solar it is. I picked up Hellion and Icarus Dash. I have Phoenix Dive on as well to get myself out of the air should the need arise. This goes well with Hellion, and with the rest of the solar kit making it super easy to get your class ability back, this pairing was a no-brainer. My other aspect really came down to Icarus Dash or Heat Rises. Heat Rises basically allows you to bypass the need for this exotic, and Icarus Dash gives some in-air mobility and the occasional cure from weapon takedowns. I wanted to get as much out of this exotic as I could, so being able to shoot in the air without the need for Heat Rises sounded pretty fun. Then it just comes down to your weapons. What solar weapon would benefit from being reloaded on a weapon kill? Well, there's all kinds, really. Tommy's Matchbook, Sunshot, even things like the Battler and No Hesitation. I tried a lot of different weapons, but a lot of them felt lackluster. Tommy's was probably the best, but the self-damage was really hard to deal with in the air, and I found myself needing to Phoenix Dive more often than I would have liked. I really wanted to just hang in the air and mow stuff down, not constantly have to land to refuel my health. Then I tried Devil's Ruin. Devil's Ruin has a laser beam mode that runs on primary ammo, so basically no ammo. I really thought this was the weapon, like I wasn't going to find a better weapon than this. You usually have to reload Devil's Ruin after every beam, but here after each kill I could just go right into another beam without any downtime. This was fun, and I really liked this, but then I took it into a normal Nightfall. This was a baby mode Nightfall, a Fisher-Price Nightfall, Gerber Nightfall, and yet, Devil's Ruin still started struggling. It just lacked the raw damage I needed to chain the beam. It was just enough for the red bars, but then as soon as anything stronger came around, it completely killed my momentum. And I'm back to reloading this thing like a loser. So with that experience, I'm back to the drawing board. Pretty early in my weapon hunt, I tried out Parasite. Reloading is kind of the downside of Parasite, right? I mean, every time I have the thing equipped, I've got to have a holster mod on to try and negate that reload. But here, my exotic is removing the need to reload on solar weapons. And Parasite being solar, right? So after my flop with Devil's Ruin, I was desperately trying to find a weapon that I liked. Classic Goldilocks. Battler had too much zoom, Pitch Perfect didn't have enough range. All the weapons I was trying had something that was annoying to deal with, and I couldn't seem to find the perfect mix of range, damage, and solar synergy. But over the years I've amassed quite the collection of weapon patterns, so I headed to the Enclave to see if there was something that I could make that would elevate this exotic. But then I saw this crazy button that I think I've only clicked a handful of times. Trace rifles. A trace rifle? I must be insane. Surely a trace rifle couldn't be the answer. It was, and don't call it Shirley. It's called Acacia's Dejection. I crafted this thing with Field Prep and Incandescent. Actually, Tickle, don't you know that Field Prep isn't optimal? I know, listen, I know. But the rest of the perks were all magazine refills, and I don't need that. Field Prep at least gives me some extra ammo to go in my backpack. And what do you know? This was it. This was the weapon that I was looking for. Simple, effective, easy to use, and deals a solid amount of damage. I throw in Special Finisher and Solar Scavenger, so now I'm making ammo, and the ammo I pick up gives more, both for my Trace Rifle and for Parasite. This is pretty much as good as it gets, I think. My weapons are working perfectly with my exotic, and not only is it a very fun playstyle, but it's actually kinda good. I wasn't expecting such a simple effect to provide such a noticeable impact on gameplay. I don't ever have to reload, and everyone makes so many orbs these days that I'm executing enemies all over the place, and there's green ammo everywhere. Would I take this setup into a Grandmaster? No, definitely not. It's inherently a risky playstyle, floating in the air, sitting like a sitting duck. But for normal activities, I actually really like it. Exotic missions, events, seasonal activities, even maybe raids and dungeons, you could get a decent use out of this setup. The damage resist while you're in the air leaves a bit to be desired. I didn't quite feel like the tank I feel like I should have felt like. Oh, that's a lot of feels. But in the activities I took this into, the damage resist wasn't really an issue. Between Phoenix Dive and the healing grenade, I never got so close to death that I felt like I needed to stay on the ground. It was fun to play around with, and it's really fun with the right weapons. Basically anything solar would be pretty good, and I suspect most people will like it with Sunshot. That's not to say that this build is the best. It's not. It's actually quite far from it. But what this loadout is a fun departure for the usual meta. I like it, I think it's good enough for a lot of different activities, and I think it's worth a try if you're looking to do something a little bit different and unique. I mean, come on, what other builds can shoot Parasite like this? It's a good time. Try this exotic out, and let me know what setups and weapons you like to pair it with. Until next time.